but they're executing it, and that's key.
Agreed.
Well, Glenn, we've got, like I said at the beginning, I've got a break because of my impending wedding and some travel getting back to Europe. But
wedding,
yeah.
Oh my,
yeah. So, but I wanted to understand, Glenn, from you as we get into the summer, what's going to change on the ground? The Donbass offensive seems to be culminating in the next few weeks with the Russians getting whatever they get before they start putting on the back foot. What would you expect to see next from Ukraine's side? Because as Michael Kaufman said many times, this is really the last big offensive Russia has in them, and that at that point they need to be able to hold ground until they just keep it. Ukrainians tire themselves out or buy time to help Russia get more combat power from some kind of partial mobilization or shadow mobilization or some other way to raise manpower. It really looks like that's what's coming this summer is offensive season from a weather perspective, where maneuvers easier because of the weather with the ground being dried out, and Ukraine starting to have more and more equipment, whether it's the T-72s coming from Poland and Slovakia, or more artillery and drones and troops really who are being mobilized and trained since February 24th. Ben Hodges said something, and I want to kick this between both of you. Lieutenant General Hodges, he thinks it's feasible for Ukraine to reclaim most of their territory before 24 February, by the end of the summer. And I just want to let both of you kick that around and see what you think about that.
I listened to that, and I heard Ben Hodges say that. So, he's a lieutenant general. He's a former United States Army Europe commanding general. He's had his finger on the pulse and seen the man behind the curtain. Is it possible? Yeah, I do concur with that, and the reason I do is I don't think Russia's able to reconstitute forces. I think the sanctions have crippled their industrial base. They continue to lie to themselves that this is a special military operation rather than a full-scale invasion of a neighboring country, and as such, they're not mobilizing the nation to conduct the large-scale combat operations. And on the flip side, on Ukraine's sides, so long as they continue to receive support from the West in terms of equipment, logistics, advisors, trainers, and they will be able to continue to push. And we're seeing, Russia getting smushed down on what they're really able to control. So they're just rolling it from north, south, southeast, and eventually something's going to have to give in that. I think it will take upwards of a year. 24 February of 23 might be a little optimistic, but I don't think it's that far off.
Glenn,
if conditions stay the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because the battlefield is completely different in different areas. I mean, we're not seeing I mean, if you go to the Second World War, then what you saw in the battlefield was a coherent thing, that it was pretty much the same. You could be fighting one place and you could be fighting somewhere else, and it would be the same. But here we've got 3 or 4 different battles. The north of Donbass and south of Kharkiv is definitely one clear battle area that they're trying to break through, and they're pushing big numbers. And this is just shit hard fighting. The soldier to soldier and nasty fighting. with losses on both sides. When you go down to Donbass, the Donbass area, then the guys, you're looking at the trench warfare still, the old trench warfare, and the guys are still in the trenches and they're defending from the trenches. Now, if you're talking about taking Donbass, then theoretically, these are the people that are supposed to do it because they're the ones on the edge of Donbass. I just don't see them being able to get themselves out of the trenches and move from trench warfare to advanced operational warfare to take Donbass. So I'm not sure who is going to retake Donbass, because it's got to be someone with mobility. It's got to be someone that's actually a units that are happy fighting in in streets, because they're going to have to go into Donetsk. Whether
Well,
they
I
like
think
it or not.
for I think Ben Hodges was talking about not getting into the Donbass, but everything that's been taken since 20.
Yeah, but then there's no war. You know, there's no battle. I mean, that's a compromise that the people that are talking to me are not willing to accept. I mean, they want back to the borders, and if you're going to go back to the borders, you've got to take it back to the borders. Frankly, you know, but go back 6 months, I'd have said the only people that could do it were Azov Battalion, because they were mentally geared for this sort of thing. They've been preparing themselves to take back the Donbass. But a lot of the other brigades, the trench warfare, especially this last 2 months, is given them a very heavy fixation, and to get out of the trenches and start moving forward. I mean, remember, go back to even when we had the first tanks, how long it took to change the mentality of people to different type of warfare. So you got a problem there with Donbass, and then south of this, where you could call it the terrorism area of the south of Kherson and areas. I mean, this is a completely different set of warfare there. But this, if you ask me, I would say this is the weakest area. This is where Russia is weakest. And this is where if they're going to attack and crush or break through, then this is where it's got to happen. But there are we've got two different types of warfare. What we call the mobile warfare, where you crack through, you encircle, and you capture, and then you've got this the current type of warfare that's going on, which is slow, deliberate killing. Just move forward a bit, move forward a village, break another village, fight, move forward another village. Well, if you're going to retake the whole of the area like this, that is going to take a long time. That is going to take a long time, unless Russia folds. Russia could fold in 24 hours. No question in my mind. If the Ukrainians press the right button, Russia will fold. I don't know what that right button is, but my suspicion is that it's the entrance to Crimea. That if they actually get close to the entrance to Crimea, everybody on the wrong side of Crimea is going to sweat and will start giving up quite quickly. I don't see that's the only thing that I see that is the big thing. I suppose the second thing then will be capturing Donetsk. That if they capture Donetsk and take that back, then there will be a fundamental change in the Russian forces in how they view everything, because they will think that then from that point they're losing. And what someone written, unless Putin uses a nuke on a city, Crimea can take back, so Ukraine can take back Crimea by July, which is what I think as well. But this nuke thing is the thing that it dominates so much of the thinking outside of Ukraine. And several of my friends who are Air Force types have said quite clearly, we don't need to go nuke if Russia nukes, because the quality of the American Air Force with F-35 and all the other air forces around are so much better than anything Russians got, that they can actually destroy the Russian attack in a couple of days. And remembering the quality of the attack in Iraq for the first Gulf War, and just think that our air forces are a huge step better than they were then, and still they destroyed what was then the same type of aircraft and the same type of equipment as Russia's fighting with now. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for Ukraine to move forward, but if they just go village by village by village, it's going to take a long time, is my feeling. Dave, back me up or argue with me, mate.
Yeah, if Ukraine has to go into the cities, and that would assume that Russia would defend the cities first. I don't know. I don't know if they do.
The question is whether they can, whether they've got enough people to defend cities.
Or would they rather withdraw and rebel the cities on their way out?
That's a good question.
Which is, I think that's the more likely course of action for Russia. The rebel the cities as they withdraw out.
But if they start rebelling Donetsk, for example, then it's going to change the paradigm of how the separatists who are working there.
Yeah, it invalidates it.
I mean, it is entirely possible that they'll all just turn around and fight for Ukraine,
right?
Because they'll see that that what they were led to believe is actually complete garbage. Well, now we know this, but they just haven't actually got around to realizing it yet. But they would do if their own homes were destroyed. They could visibly see their own homes were being destroyed by Russia. Yeah. That would change that's a different paradigm altogether.
Yeah, and they're not losing in the Donbass yet.
No, they're not, but they're not winning either.
No, but they're not. Right, they're not losing there yet.
No.
I see it rolling in from the north towards the south, and eventually I think we're going to start moving west, east, and that Russian sphere is going to start shrinking into the Donbass. We're already seeing it come from the north down.
Yeah. Let's see. Could be an interesting summer.
Yeah. Well, Dave and Glenn, I'm
going to get married.
So he brought it up and his camera froze.
Yeah, his camera froze.
I'm going to be traveling over the next few weeks and looking forward to seeing you in person, Glenn. Dave, I already saw you here. And, hopefully seeing what happens, some of these things play out. I hope General Hodges is right. Glenn, if Ukraine can, get Crimea for the summer, that'd be great to visit. But I'm sure that's probably going to take a while.
2010, I was there last. It's a long time.
Well, my master's thesis was on Crimea, and I'm a little upset I can't visit it. But anyway, I'll have to get there one of these days.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Guys, thanks.
Well, thanks everyone for joining for another episode. I know I've enjoyed the regular conversations with you, Dave and Glenn. Look forward to